Libya, Somalia, Sudan, and Yemen, the Trump administration hopes to restrict immigration. The ban does not apply to football players qualifying for the 2026 World Cup, which the United States co-hosts, nor for athletes participating in the 2028 Los Angeles Olympics. United Nations Human Rights Chief Volker Turk warned that the breadth of the new travel ban raises concerns from the perspective of international law. Democratic lawmakers also called the veto an unconstitutional measure. And trade union and civil rights leaders in the United States continued to demonstrate Monday in the city of Los Angeles to demand the departure of Immigration and Customs Enforcement agents and the National Guard from the city. Protesters gathered outside the city's Metropolitan Detention Center chanting "Stop the deportations, free them all," and National Guard out of LA. They also reportedly chanted shame at the row of law enforcement officers dressed in riot gear standing in front of the building. Other protesters held signs with messages like "ICE out of LA," as well as waving flags from Mexico and other nations. Demonstrations are part of the rejection to Trump's repressive and xenophobic policies carried out during the past month in the context of an increasingly criminalizing speech against migrants. And the unions that joined the New York protest not only demonstrated in support of the situation in Los Angeles, but also demanded the release of David Huerta, president of the California Service Employees International Union. Huerta was reportedly arrested on Friday in front of a local business and was charged with conspiring to obstruct an officer during a demonstration against the raids. This Monday, after spending 4 days in detention, Huerta was released on a $50,000 bail and left the detention center accompanied by a human chain of activists. Also in the United States, police detained 24 people demonstrating in the lobby of Trump Tower against migration raids in New York. A spokesman for the New York Police Department reported the situation, alleging that the protesters entered the building at noon and refused to vacate the premises. The activists also condemned the recent restrictions on entry to the country imposed by the president on citizens from 19 countries. Supporting the same cause, demonstrators, unions, and community groups in the Big Apple called for a protest demanding an end to the Trump administration's intense actions against the country's diverse communities. Mexican President Claudia Sheinbaum condemned the acts of violence perpetrated by the immigration authorities in Los Angeles in the United States. There were also protests in Mexico in rejection of the raids against migrant workers. Antonio Aranda tells us the details.
Grupos promigrantes se manifestaron afuera de la embajada de Estados Unidos.
Pro-migrant groups demonstrated outside the U.S. Embassy in Mexico City against the raids to detain migrant workers that took place over the weekend in Los Angeles, California. The demonstrators expressed their rejection of the violent act that took place in Los Angeles and demanded that the Donald Trump administration stop the abuses against the migrant community in the United States.
We condemn
the violence, and from here we call on all of our brothers who have the right to demonstrate, because they are builders in that country, to do so firmly but peacefully. Do not fall into provocations. Rubber bullets, sound grenades, tear gas are provocations. I advise that they demonstrate firmly but peacefully.
Los grupos promigrantes expresaron que
Pro-migrant groups expressed that they will continue to denounce the abuse by the U.S. government against the undocumented working community.
Un acto simbólico también de repudio a
A symbolic act of repudiation of these actions and a statement where we are requesting an immediate halt to raids and deportations in the United States.
Y deportaciones en los Estados Unidos.
La presidenta Claudia Sheinbaum expresó durante su conferencia.
President Claudia Sheinbaum expressed during her morning conference on Monday her rejection of violent acts and asked Mexicans not to fall into provocations.
No estamos de acuerdo con las acciones violentas.
We do not agree with violent actions as a form of protest. The burning of patrol cars seems to be more an act of provocation than resistance. It must be clear. We condemn violence wherever it comes from. We call on the Mexican community to act peacefully and not to fall into provocations.
Y no caer en provocaciones.
Y agregó que su gobierno está comprometido
and added that the government is committed to the defense of Mexicans in the United States.
El gobierno de México reitera su compromiso inquebrantable.
The government of Mexico reiterates its unwavering commitment to the protection and defense of the human rights of Mexicans abroad, regardless of their migration status. In this sense, we make a respectful but firm call to the U.S. authorities to ensure that all migration procedures are carried out in accordance with due process, in a framework of respect for human dignity and the rule of law.
A la dignidad humana y al Estado de Derecho.
El canciller de México confirmó que hay 42.
Mexico's foreign minister confirmed that 42 Mexicans have been detained in raids in Los Angeles.
El censo que tenemos actualizado.
The census we have updated is of 42 nationals who are detained in these 4 centers, 37 men and 5 women. And we are also already in the individual case-by-case analysis to see what are the subsequent steps.
Los pasos subsecuentes.
El gobierno de México expresó
The Mexican government expressed its intention to maintain an open dialogue with U.S. immigration agencies, but without accepting conditions of subordination.
Antonio Aranda, TeleSUR, Ciudad de México.
President Donald Trump's order barring citizens of 12 countries from entering the United States went into effect immediately after midnight Monday, with the ban in place for Afghanistan, Burma, Chad, Congo, Equatorial Guinea, Eritrea, Haiti,